Welcome. This is Map Marketing and I am your host, Rachel Klaver. I love helping small business owners become more confident and more capable with their marketing. So this podcast is all here to help you do just that. It's me and the help of some great guests helping you learn new skills, new strategies and ideas. Let's jump in and get started. I've now talked to quite a few people who are planning world domination in the food or maker industry across lots of different food or beauty or other areas around New Zealand. And everyone that has done the breakthrough has had one huge thing in common. They've all had to find ways to push past times where there's a big risk moment, where sometimes they've had to look at how they change their ownership levels or how often they're going to have to get extra help in. I think one of the things that I've learned as someone who's grown a business, made it smaller, grown it again, is that there is the sacrifice as the business owner, especially when you like to keep everything in control, of balancing what things it is that you keep control of and what things you may have to give over and working those things out. So no matter where you are in business this week, one thing I'd like you to ask yourself is, if my business grew beyond what it is today, what are the things that I would retain and keep on doing? And what things would I be able to give up? Because that is the moment growth becomes possible. I hope you have a great week. Next week, I'm going to tell you what we're talking about. It's me again, and we are going to be talking about gated and non-gated content, what it is, how to use it, and whether you should be using one or the other at all. Hi and welcome to Map It Marketing. I am your host, Rachel Klaver, and today we have a great guest for you. It's someone I have known for quite a long time. She came to an event of mine several years ago, and I actually was lucky enough to get some of her product before it was on the shelves to try it. And I was a huge fan, so I've been wanting to do this a long time, but Debbie is a strong-willed person and has delayed it until this moment. Haven't you, Debbie?
I have.
But that's okay, because she's got a better story now, because she's had exciting things happen. Before we jump into Debbie talking to us and you finding out a bit more about Debbie, more than in the introduction, just a few things. If you've got questions that come up from this podcast, do come and be part of the My Marketing community on Facebook. There's a link in the show notes, or you can give it a quick Facebook search and can ask any questions. I think, Debbie, you're in there, aren't you?
Yeah.
So Debbie could even answer some of your questions in there as well. And then also I'm going to do a wee plug for my book, because I have no shame. My book, Be a Spider, Build a Web Around Sticky Content Marketing, is out. It's been out for a few months. And if you are wanting to work out how to do your content marketing better in an authentic way, then give it a look and maybe a bit of a buy. You can get it from Amazon or other ebook resellers, or you can get it from our website, and there's a link in the show notes. Right, with no further ado, Debbie, it's really lovely having you on the show first.
Having me.
It's so nice. And do you want to tell people a little bit about you and what started Vince and what Vince is? Because for a start, Vince is cool, but it makes me think of like a middle-aged man, with like a gold chain. So it's not that. You're not selling middle-aged men with gold chain.
No. Fortunately. No, so Vince is it's a vegetable mince, veggie mince. So where we differ from other meat alternatives is that we use real veggies in our mince. And our messaging is not we want to fully replace meat. We're like, we want to support you if you do want to do that, but we also want to support you if you just want to reduce your meat, because it's also a great veggie booster if you want to add it to a reduced amount of beef mince. And a lot of our customers are using it that way.
I think I was going to say with that, because I've got two autistic kids, and I thought I only had one.
So do I. Well, one autistic kid.
Well, I thought I only had one, but apparently I can have two. And I was like, no, I can have room for one. No, there's two. But one of them has got a lot of food phobias, and things like that. But she'll eat mince, and there's a lot of veggie she doesn't eat. And I found that with Vince, I can add it in, and because it's got the texture of meat, if I don't tell her, told her it wouldn't work. But if I don't tell her and I put it in, she can get those veggies in through as well. Luckily she never listens to this podcast, so we're okay. But it's just means I can get that in for her. So for me, that's been a really good gift.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of mums have this problem, right? They've got fussy kids that don't want to eat their veggies, and it is a struggle. It's like everyone's tired at dinner time. It's like, just eat your veggies. and I did struggle with the sort of like hidden veggie message to start with, because being a chef and using a lot of whole food ingredients, it's like, no, we want to celebrate veggies. They need to know exactly what they're eating. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, why can't we do both? Let's hide them, but also put them on the side of the plate in whole form so that they get used to that as well. But we still need to make sure our kids are getting our veggies and fibre. New Zealanders are fibre deficient. They're not protein deficient, they're definitely fibre deficient. So we need to look at ways that we can get more veggies.
And because one of the things that, because I saw an ad actually yesterday, and it was in a nutrition thing, and it was talking about, there was like beef, and then there was like a veggie burger, and then there was like another veggie burger, and it was like, read the labels. And because it had like the beef one, it had like beef, salt, I think beef, salt, and maybe a little bit of something that kept it from, kept it going a bit longer. And then it had like a veggie burger, and it had like real food in it, like your thing has that real food in it. And then the other one, which looked the same, had like all this like these chemicals and other bits and pieces in it, and the list was really long. And with mince, that's not what you're getting, is it? You're getting just the veggies.
Yeah, that's right. And that's the reason why I started mince as well, because when we went plant-based, I would look in this, I really missed making all those family favorites like lasagna and nachos and bolognese, those things that you could just get home at the end of the day, chuck it together, didn't need a recipe, and everyone loved it. So I went looking in the supermarkets for something that I could replace the beef mince with, and I'd look at the back of the pack, it's like, I don't even know what that ingredient looks like. How can I feed that to my children? So I developed my own recipe pretty much.
And it does have the this is what I found really fascinating. It does have the consistency of mince.
Yeah, so we dehydrate it. So we make it up in bulk, and then we dehydrate it down. And so that does a couple of things, well, a few things. So it intensifies the flavor, it gives it that texture, and also extends the shelf life. So I don't need to add any additives or preservatives to it, and it sits in your pantry for a year.
And it is like it's one of those cool things, because you have them in different flavors, don't you? So that when you talk about those family favorites, they already have a flavor component in them.
So we've got Mexican for nachos and tacos, Italian for bolognese, that goes great for pasta, and then we've got Kiwi, so that's like cottage pie, mince on toast.
Good plan.
So trying to cover most of the basics there.
So one of the things with your product, because I know that when we first met, you were literally making it, I think, in a dehydrator at home. Is that pretty much what you were doing? Like when you were testing it out, not when you're selling it, but like when you're
we used to own a cafe, and when we sold the cafe, I converted my home kitchen into a commercial kitchen so that I could carry on doing catering. So when I started making mince, I already had had my food control plan, and I could make it from my home kitchen. So that's exactly what I was doing. I just got the domestic dehydrators, ended up being like a stack of 4 of them in the end, and then scaled up to the next size, and now we're even bigger size, and in the process of trying to find one even bigger. So once I was making it in the home kitchen, but we needed to get bigger equipment, so we actually just dropped a shipping container in our driveway and converted that. Because one of the things that when you're growing a business and you're bootstrapping, you want to keep those overheads as low as possible. So that was a great alternative for us.
Because it is the thing, isn't it? You're not having these huge budgets from like is it still wholly owned by you, or have you had to give up share in the business?
So we have done a pre-seed round, just issuing convertible notes, so that when we go to do our second raise, that's when we'll put the value on the company, because it's so early stage, and there's a lot of potential. We want to be able to portray that potential with our distribution. So when we go for our next round, that's when we'll put a value on the company.
But was that a hard thing? Was that something you always knew you'd have to do when you started? Like, did you think, oh, we're going to own this. Me and Nigel are going to own this business outright?
Yeah, no, and I mean, we'd had friends saying, we'd love to invest, we want to come along for the journey, and they have been part of the journey as well. So it's really been nice to include them as well, and it's allowed us to grow. Otherwise, I'd still be in my kitchen at home.
But does that feel also like a weight on you? Like if you've had friends and relatives invest,
yeah,
I know you believe in your product. I love your product, so yeah. I believe in the power of it too. So I'm not trying to go and make. But does it feel like a weight, or does it feel like a kind of like a comfort?
Yeah, actually, a little bit of both, to be honest. That weight is there, but it is more of a comfort and a support. For us as well. I mean, and they've all got things that they advise us on, and can help us with the business as well, which has been really cool.
And one of the things that I know, and I don't know if this is still present because it was really early days when we first talked about it, but I know that part of your ethos was to try and get as much local produce as possible to create it, but there was issues initially with finding and sourcing produce.
And there still is. I mean, with the scale that we are at the moment, like we'd had talks, that we could get contract growers, but at the size that we're at, that wasn't really possible. So I've had to, I'm getting them from Auckland, which, I guess is still, it's local.
Relatively local.
Yeah. So I'm getting it from Auckland at the moment, because what they can do in Auckland, they can partly process, chop down the veggies for me, which means less labour my end. But our next step is we're looking at a larger facility here in Whangarei, and to incorporate more of the vegetable processing equipment so that we can use more local produce from growers around the Northland region.
Do you find that is it difficult to source? Like obviously at the moment, like everyone's talking about prices. Is that hard for you? Because you have to keep you can't suddenly go, you're not like a grocer where you can go, this week my cauliflower is $7. You can't suddenly go to Vince, your Vince and go, I'm putting my prices up 40% this week. You can't do that. Sometimes you have to wear it when it goes,
when the price goes up. But our plan is, especially with our next stages, that we'll be able to dehydrate, like cauliflower is one of the main ingredients, and of course that can go up to $7 a head. But if we can get that when it's peak, in the season, then we're going to process it and dry it down then, and then we can reincorporate it when it's when it is at those higher prices.
And I guess to me that also fits in with the sustainability thing. I did an interview with Little Beauties about a couple of months ago, and they were talking about how their product, a lot of it comes from what is unsellable fruit, because as soon as it drops to the ground you can't use it, but they can use it with dehydration. And I guess for you too, like in seasons, that's when there's often glut. So if you can get to that stage.
Definitely. Well, we've been talking with, have you heard of Perfectly Imperfect?
Yes.
Yeah, so
we've been
talking to Wendy, and so when we get to our larger facility, we're going to incorporate more capacity so that we can produce more of that rescued vegetables. So we're really looking forward to being able to do that.
And that would also increase an investment though for you, isn't it? Because when you're kind of making, like if you're at a market stage or at a small supply stage, you can kind of make a small batch, make a small batch, but this is you going, we're going to make a whole lot of product even if we don't necessarily have forward orders for it. Is that right?
I mean, we're working hard on that in the background. We've just got distribution through New World. We won the food starter competition, which is pretty cool. So, I mean, it's a bit of both. You've got to make sure that you have got something in the pipeline so that you can sell it. But investing in large equipment and premise and spending money before you've can recuperate it straight away. Yeah, it is a scary part of growing.
And it's a necessary part, isn't it? Like there is no other way with FMCG. There's always an upscale in equipment and capacity that has to happen before.
That's right.
It's kind of like a catch-22.
Yeah, because I mean, you need to be able to really distribute nationwide and be able to work on your brand, because I mean, that's the hardest part, getting your brand out there and awareness of your product. And if you make people aware of your product and they're like, okay, well, where can I buy it?
Yes.
Like at the moment, we've got quite a few people in Christchurch saying, oh, where can I buy it? It's like, well, I haven't quite got there yet, but you can go online and buy it.
Yeah, and I mean, online's great for you because you're selling it direct.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's great for you because it means you get that more margin, but it's getting that out there, and it's a whole other marketing beast than having it in a supermarket.
For sure. Sure. Yeah. One of the great things with the winning the food starter is that we actually won a marketing support package as well. So it'll be really interesting learning from their point of view, what's involved in the brand awareness.
So with the in-store thing, like where does your product sit in the supermarket? Like, does it sit in a place that you feel makes it easy for people to choose it, or is it in an odd spot?
Like, that's interesting. Where would you think it would sit?
Well, it's interesting because it's a dehydrated product. So I'm going to say that in my local New World, I would best find it in the health section. Yeah. And that's only because the other vegan products are often, or vegetable products, or meat-free products are often in the dairy section, or things like that. Like there's a section there, but I think they tend to group that stuff in there. So that to me would be in there, or potentially, I think that's where I would look for it, but I don't know. Yeah,
so there's two different areas. So in some supermarkets, we are in that health and wellbeing section.
Yeah.
But we're also really pushing for the meal ready section because a lot more through traffic, like, when you're walking past your taco shells and all of the pasta and rice.
It's a good spot. I was thinking about it there, and I was just trying to remember what other kind of things in that space. I mean, you have a really beautiful green packaging.
Yeah.
I've got the on-brand color behind me, by the way, just for those of you that are not that are just listening to this. I painted my walls especially. Yes. So, the packaging's really great. So like it pops on a shelf.
Yeah.
But it is, I guess that's one of the things of being quite early to market, because it is like it is quite an early to market product.
It is,
that can make it hard sometimes in a supermarket.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like if you want a meat alternative, you usually go to the fridge or freezer. But also with our product, we're not wanting to sell just to people that, wanting to eat a plant-based lifestyle. We're looking for the flexitarians, people that are just looking maybe to cut back a bit, increase the veg. So sort of that meal ready section is where a lot of people are passing through. So that green is really important. You do want something to pop. And we've actually our last packaging, we've put, you see here, we're just starting to put like a picture of what it makes. We were missing that. And so people were sort of walking past it and not knowing what it was. So
because I think that is that thing with that, again, that new to market, you have to make the concept easy, don't you? Because otherwise it can make it quite tricky.
Yeah. And like with our bag runs, we've always done small bag runs so that we can keep changing the packaging based on feedback from our customers, which has been really good.
And because the other thing I was thinking about is really great for trampers.
Yeah.
Or people that are like traveling or camping and things like that.
Yeah, we wanted to be careful in the beginning. We didn't want to be pigeonholed into that sort of market. So yes, it's great for camping and tramping, but we are trying to go for mainstream.
Oh, definitely for everyday thing. But I'm thinking like that's why, like if it's in that ready to make, I can see someone picking it up and then having it and going, it's actually good.
Yeah, I would really love to have it like in a the tramping packaging thing is quite interesting because we want to be a sustainable company, but you'll notice a lot of the tramping foods that are sold in this like really heavy material so people can like put boiling water straight into it.
Oh, yes.
So it's something for us to work on.
Oh, you could probably do like a big thing with a big supplier or something at some point and do like a Vince just for traveling, so it's not even in the supermarket or something. So with the product and with the marketing and going through, like how much has it been around a groundswell of getting other customers to go and ask for it or to push it? You talked about how Christchurch, they're asking for it. Have you kind of tapped into kind of using that to kind of get supply in other places?
I had yes and no.
It's hard.
It is really hard. I mean, at the moment, I've kind of really just been directing those people to our website and taking note of what area it is that they're requesting. And then if I get a few in that area, I'll say we've just signed on with a merchandiser, sales for our sales and distribution. So I'll let them know, and they'll go in store and see them. And then I'll send an email out to those customers that were requesting it and say, can you please go in? Can you please go in and buy it so it stays on the shelf? Because it's one thing to get your product on the shelf in the supermarket, but in that first 13 weeks, it's like, if it doesn't really sell, they'll just take it off again.
Yeah, well, actually, I had that happen with a client. I'm not working on her strategy, we're doing some content stuff, but she actually was talking about that yesterday. Her product is going off with a supermarket, and it really is because it's I think people don't realize it's nothing about the quality of the product, and it's nothing about anything. It's certainly just about getting those numbers, because for them, supermarkets, they want to have that push all the time and the product to move, because their margins are really low.
Yeah.
And they also, and I think this is one of the things I found really interesting, because some people in your position, and I work with quite a lot of people who kind of work out which one they're trying to do. Some people don't go the supermarket route at all. They stay as a direct thing, but you decided that you wanted to be in supermarkets to make it an everyday accessible brand, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. I mean, and a lot of people won't go online and buy their grocery items. A lot of people still want to go in the store. I mean, it is changing, but I don't think it's changing quite as fast as people think or expect. Markets.
And I guess too, like your range is really beautiful and precise, but it's not a hugely expandable range. So like if you were going to go online, you'd have to do this massive other stuff that you were doing to make it worthwhile for people to come to your website.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've got NPD, which is quite exciting, new products in the pipeline. So nice. That's cool. So our plan is definitely to expand, but yeah, if people are wanting to buy Vince and go online, it's like they've got to go to one specific website, and then if they don't spend that much, then pay shipping, and they have to really want it to.
And what about the whole thing around getting those margins right? You know, we talk about sometimes you got to take a hit because of the up and downs. Like supermarkets do take no hate to supermarkets, we love you, but they do take quite a big chunk, don't they? And if you've got like someone who's also merchandising, like all of those layers have to be in there.
For sure. I mean, and that's some advice we took early on. It's like, make sure your price point is not too low to start with, make it high, and then you can always come down, but it's really hard to go back up. And another thing too is working at a smaller scale. We know that once we get into a larger place and we can start ordering more in bulk and do larger print runs of our bags, those costs are going to come down, but you never know exactly where that's going to end up. So
yeah, because
I guess as well.
I remember interviewing Cherie from Pepper and Me, and that's one of the things she said was that she kind of like set her pricing, and then she was just really lucky because it grew, and they started doing like 5 tons of salt, for example, at a time, and because she was doing these huge amounts, the price went down, so she didn't actually have to alter her pricing. She was really lucky,
Yeah,
which is kind of split water. But I think it is like such a science, like trying to work those things out and having to wear it for a long time before you see the return as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a science, but it's also a guessing game, right?
It is a bit of a guessing game.
Yeah,
and it's a bit of a fingers crossed moment as well. Like you're just like, and I do think that I think for lots of people that are not in the FMCG businesses as well, like I'm in a service-based business, but I think we need to take that ballsy approach across all businesses, because I do think that in every business there's this moment where you have to kind of back what you do. And I don't know about you, but I definitely still have regular meltdowns about it. I mean, maybe you don't, but I definitely have days where I'm just like, what the hell am I doing? I can't do this. This is terrible. And then you just got to push through it. Do you have those days, or are you fine? Are you just...
No, for sure. I do, especially when you get the odd bill in, then it's like, oh my gosh, where did this bill come from?
What do you mean I had to pay for that? I didn't think that was going to be anything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've lost my train of thought.
But it is like because I know that you work with your husband in this as well. Do you, and we talked about, I work with Rod as well. Do you think the fact that you've got both of you looking at it from two different perspectives, because you're quite different brains as well?
Oh yeah, that was the thing I was going to say.
Yeah.
I mean, we were really wanting to push for price parity with meat. So we are really working hard to get that down. And of course, as meat goes up and we come down, we are almost there. But yeah, me and Nigel, we have quite different skill sets, which has been great. He's his background is business analyst. He loves all the nitty-gritty and the numbers, whereas I'm more creative and operational side of things. So yeah, it does work.
And I think that helps that pragmatist thing, because like you can often see here's where we're going, and sometimes it can feel like a handbrake when there's like well, hang on, I'm going to wait for this. But actually it's good for the business to have both of those sides in there.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely agree with that.
And
I mean, we've been in business together for like nearly 20 years. I mean, so we're kind of fine-tuning. I mean, it's quite good being able to have different views, because you can kind of argue each point of view, and things that you wouldn't necessarily think about to get that other viewpoint is really, really important.
And do you feel, because I know for me, like I actually had to have a little bit of a Rod put the kibosh on something this week for me, but because I can get really swept away in the excitement of a new thing or a new idea or a concept and conceal the stuff. But sometimes you're like, hey, but let's just take a reality check on what that looks like. And I always feel good when he does it. And eventually, sometimes initially I don't feel good about it.
Nigel always likes to come to me with new ideas as well. And it's like, because I'm the one that is the operations, that I have to make it happen. It's like, sometimes it's like, just stop with the ideas, please.
Yeah, we'll have a little board with the ideas. Let's put the ideas in a board. And are you, because I feel like New Zealand is a great place to, and you haven't saturated New Zealand by any, like South Island isn't using you enough, so you still got that. But is this an export product you're wanting to do as well?
And we just sent our first pallet off to Japan last month.
Super exciting.
Great it was really cool. For it. So last year we had someone contact us. They were doing travel books. They were from Japan. They were doing travel books for New Zealand for the Japanese market. And of course, with COVID, it's like wasn't really doing too well. So they were looking to branch out and do a few different things with their for their business. And so they contacted us and said, "We love your product. Would you be open to us distributing it in Japan?" And as a startup, we're like, hold up, we haven't not got the time to do that. But we said, we'll sell it to you if you want to do all the work that needs to be done with all the exporting. There's quite a bit of paperwork involved in that, especially with the Japanese market. They're quite rigid, quite tight. So they did all the work behind the scenes, and it was good. So they did it on a crowdsourcing platform.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it kind of like is sort of like gauging the demand for it in the market there, and also now they're getting feedback from those customers.
And did you have to change the packaging for that market?
No. So it'll be interesting what the next step is. So it's pretty exciting. We've had an inquiry from the UK as well, and that would be for a white label or co-branding. I'll be selling into Sainsbury's and Tesco's, which is pretty exciting, pretty big. I need a big dehydrator for that.
And would you keep the product New Zealand made when you're doing that? Is that the plan?
Maybe we have got a scenario where we would talking about, we want to be a sustainable business and keeping our carbon footprint low as well, possibly setting up plants in other countries as well, doing the same thing, using their local produce for their local market.
Yeah, I actually did an interview. It hasn't come out yet. It's in a couple of weeks' time. But with Thunderpants, which is a completely different type of business. That's what they do. They have in the UK and the US, they have Thunderpants UK and Thunderpants US, but they don't. They wanted to keep their sustainability message all the way through. So they get everything printed and made in those countries, so that cool. the footprint is like less. And I was really interested by that model because it feels scary but also really exciting at the same time.
Well, I see Fix and Fog did a similar thing.
Yes, with America.
Very
clever. because I've also talked to people who are doing the export thing, and it's drama. Like, you know, you get the stuff and it sits on the tarmac and suddenly it spoils or something like that. Not so much as dehydrated, but, you know, other things that are the chocolate melted, and, you know, they're like trying to find ways to get freezers just near their space. And and I think too, like we're such a, I think one of the things I really like about what you've done is I also could maybe see it was an export type product, but you have to test it in New Zealand first. Like if you can't win it in New Zealand with the product, getting it across somewhere else is really hard.
Yeah.
You know, and you're doing this thing where you are putting that groundwork into New Zealand and kind of working out what is working here before you try and take it to.
But in New Zealand is a hard market too.
It's a hard market. We don't like new stuff.
Yeah. And just like the distribution as well. And sometimes it's easier just to put it on a pallet and send it.
Oh yeah, it would definitely be easier to put it on a pallet and send it over to Australia. That would be easier.
But it's just the selling at the other end. So that's why we're quite happy to work with these distributors in Japan, because we've got no idea what the market is like over there. So that was cool.
And it is a concept of scale, isn't it? Because, you know, we've got 5 million people here. Well, that's a city there. It's probably a city there. So like, you know, like the whole concept of ideas around how many people and finding the people for you in that market is just like such a huge mind shift compared to what we're doing here.
Yeah, precisely. Okay.
And what are some things that you feel have been like moments where you had to make a decision to kind of grow or just stay as it was? Have there been those moments?
I think we've always had big ambitions. Like from the start, we were always, you know, this will be an export product. And we just take every opportunity that we can to grow the business. It's just been full steam ahead and not looking back really.
And are you still, like in terms of operation, like are you still doing a lot of the manufacturing yourself, or have you got a team now that helps do some of that stuff, or is it just also on you?
I've got one other,
so it mainly is you still.
Oh no, she does a lot and I help her.
That's a good way to be.
So it's been awesome having her sort of take that load, because I mean it really is two different businesses. So for her to really look after the manufacturing side of things, and then I jump in the kitchen a couple of days a week and help her make it. But and then all the paperwork and, you know, everything else, the Vince side of things, I take care of.
And is it like, because you used to be a chef, does that feel like something that you still really love doing, or do you miss elements of that chefing side, that kind of, or is the product development helping that?
Yeah, the product development definitely helps that. I think I do always miss the chefing side of things, you know, being in a kitchen, fast-paced kitchen, you know, doing cooking to order is always, I really enjoyed that. But this is definitely challenging as well, which is great.
And I guess you could do that chefing side through like your content, like showing how to do it and getting that kind of video or those things. That's where you could bring that through.
Yeah. I mean, that is one thing that kind of struggle with, like, you know, running the business, and then I find when I'm doing my recipes, and that's quite a creative type thing, to switch between the two can be quite challenging. But yeah, definitely, I mean, people always want more recipes using the Vince. So
well, actually, one of my clients is a nutritionist. She did a video the other day of how to boil an egg.
Wow.
And she was like, and then I was like, she did it on TikTok, and then she put it on YouTube, and she had like, I think she said 45,000 people.
Wow.
A huge number of people, like within like 48 hours, watching this egg be boiled. And she's just like, the hunger for people to watch food videos is it's just inexhaustible.
Yeah, it is. And it's like, if you look at the stats too, it's like the amount of time we spend in the kitchen now is, you know, getting less and less. And so to be able to produce meals that still have high nutrient content in it is becoming more challenging. So that was one of the things with Vince. We wanted to make it highly nutritious, but also really super easy to prepare as well.
And is it something that your kids have cooked with? Do your kids cook?
Yeah, they have their cooking nights. Yeah.
Awesome, well done. One of mine does. I
have to be honest, one does, and
the other
one says she will and never does.
Yeah. Sounds very similar. So in terms of what you're doing, what's up next, you're going to still keep pushing this thing, obviously with New World. That means it's that new push going in there. Has that, and I know you've got that support for marketing, has that kind of added like a extra, is that nationwide, that New World push? And for that, what do you have to do to build the brand? Do you have to do stuff, or do they kind of do it?
No, we definitely have to do stuff. But I mean, I guess at the moment, what we're working on is our capabilities to make sure that we can deliver, Vince onto every shelf in New World. So we're working hard on that part first, and once we've got the capabilities, really, then the push and focus will be on the brand awareness and the marketing.
Do you think that, have you done in-store like demos and things like that?
Yeah, and that was something that was hard with COVID, because it's vital, really, the in-store demonstrations to show people what it is, and how to prepare it, how to use it. We were in Faro just before lockdown in 2020, so it sat on the shelf in there, and we didn't have a chance to go in store and do demos. So that was quite hard, but definitely notice a bump in sales when we can get in and talk to the customers.
Because I think that is one of the things, because even though like it's got good packaging, and now it's got the picture, which really helps. It's a product that you don't know what it's like until you've tasted it.
That's right. Yeah, and people are always very, very surprised. I went to Field Days, was it last year? Year before. Anyway, it was amazing.
2 years has been a blur, let's be honest.
Yeah. But I thought taking a vegan product to Field Days, I was going to get laughed out of the marquee, but the response was amazing. I had to get Nigel to send more down because I sold out in a day and a half.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had my stand there and I had all the vegetables that go into Vince. And so, you'd have the beef farmers kind of giving you a wide berth, walking around the edge of the market. It's like, come over here, come and try it. They're like, oh, meat alternative, what are you? No. It's like, no, it's vegetables, this is what it is. And they've got huge respect for vegetable growers and farmers too. And they're like, oh, you'll give it a go. And they were quite impressed and surprised at the same time.
That's amazing. And I know we said cauliflower, can you tell us a few of the other veggies that are in Vince?
Yeah. So I use cauliflower, carrot, celery, onion, and tomato.
Yum. So it is kind of like almost like one of those veggie bases as well, isn't it? Like when I think about if I'm making a bolognese, not cauliflower, but I'd often use celery, carrot, onion, tomato to do that kind of rich. So it is good for people who are on a rush, because that takes a while to cook down.
That's right.
From scratch.
Yeah, I mean, if you're making like a beautiful soup or a stock or a meal, it's usually the vegetables that you put in that give it the amazing flavors. So I mean, these are all the sort of vegetables and spices and herbs that you would usually pair with a beef mince.
So that sounds great. So if people want to get hold of it, obviously it's coming to New World, and it is already in some New Worlds, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Mainly in the North Island.
Yeah, mainly in North Island. Yep. But you can find out on the website which New World, or if you want it in a New World in your area, you can let me know.
Excellent. So they can definitely do that. And if they are listening from Australia, do you ship to Australia?
Yeah, I can ship to Australia. It's quite pricey, the freight, but I'm happy to do it.
I think if people love it, like want to try something, they're quite often happy to pay that freight, I think.
Yeah, I got my bags printed in Australia, and they're like, oh, where can we get this from? Give me a couple of years.
Well, on my side. And so we've got, it's vince.co.nz.
Meet Vince.
Meet Vince with MEET.
That's it.
VINCE. Meet Vince. .co.nz. You can get your Vince there if you want to give it a go, if you can't get it at a local New World. And is there anything else people need to know about Vince before we finish? Buy it.
Yeah, support local. Buy it and let me know what you think of it.
Oh, actually, one question: the packet. Like, because how much does it feed? Like, how big does it go?
Okay, so a 100 gram bag makes 350 grams.
Oh, cool.
So so if you're having say on toast or something like that, it'd feed 2. But if you were going to make nachos and add some black beans, or there's a lot of recipes online as well, it'll feed more like 3 or 4. So it's quite a generous serve, really.
Oh, that's awesome. That is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing today. And I'm really, I think what's really good is listening to stories where people have been gutsy to take that leap of faith when you believe in something. And also, I think too, the other thing that makes Vince work in my head from a marketing point of view is, you know, you've gone with a packaging that's quite bold, a name that sticks out so it's easy to remember, and have kept the actual quality of the product really simple and just pure, really, without a whole lot of other stuff, which meets things. So it is exciting times for you guys.
It is.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I've now talked to quite a few people who are planning world domination in the food or maker industry across lots of different food or beauty or other areas around New Zealand. And everyone that has done the breakthrough has had one huge thing in common. They've all had to find ways to push past times where there's a big risk moment, where sometimes they've had to look at how they change their ownership levels or how often they're going to have to get extra help in. I think one of the things that I've learned as someone who's grown a business, made it smaller, grown it again, is that there is the sacrifice as the business owner, especially when you like to keep everything in control, of balancing what things it is that you keep control of and what things you may have to give over, and working those things out. So no matter where you are in business this week, one thing I'd like you to ask yourself is, if my business grew beyond what it is today, what are the things that I would retain and keep on doing? And what things would I be able to give up? Because that is the moment growth becomes possible. Hope you have a great week. Next week, I'm going to tell you what we're talking about. It's me again, and we are going to be talking about gated and non-gated content, what it is, how to use it, and whether you should be using one or the other at all. If you love what you heard today, be sure to hit subscribe. And if you loved this episode in particular, I'd love it if you shared it on social media. Remember to tag me in so I can say thank you. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.